On the back end of our Super Bowl segment, we're going to hear more about how brands can leverage the big game and the build-up to the big game. We've got two executives from the communications firm Taylor with us this morning. Jackson Jeyanayagam, President of Digital Strategy, and we've got John Gilboy, the Senior Vice President of Consumer and Business Insights. Gentlemen, why don't you give us an overview, please?
By way of introduction, Taylor is a public relations partner and brand counselor to a select portfolio of category-leading brands. We are a leader in the sports, entertainment, and lifestyle space, leveraging platforms in that area. We have a great history around Super Bowl, having been on the ground activating for the last 25 Super Bowls as an organization. So the research that we're going to share with you today, it's the kind of information that we're looking to uncover on behalf of our client partners. And the reason that we were conducting the research was to better understand what the unique dynamics of the host city this year, 2014, what would that mean? What are the challenges? What are the opportunities? And how we can take advantage of them. So what Jackson and I will do now is take you through some of those top-level results and then talk a little bit more specifically about how brands can activate around this year's Super Bowl, looking through that digital and social lens. So beginning with our respondents, we were very targeted and focused in who we spoke to. We actually wanted to talk to marketers themselves. 100+ marketers took our survey. These are folks from agencies, from brands, from industry organizations themselves. They have vast experience leveraging sports, entertainment, sponsorship globally, nationally. 75% of the folks that actually took our survey have activated against NFL programs in the past. More than half have actually activated against the Super Bowl. So these are folks who know and understand the space very well. So overwhelmingly, what the respondents told us is that the New York-based event, it's a game changer for brands. 89% were telling us that they would make this recommendation to activate against this year's Super Bowl just based on the unique dynamics that would be offered. What we also learned is that the unique offerings that 2014 will provide is this convergence of really interesting dynamics. And some of these dynamics are really, they're contingent on what's unique to New York. We talk about the population density, 20 million folks in the metro New York area. We talk about the fact that New York is a tremendous tourist destination, both nationally and globally. That means we have a lot of people, a lot of eyeballs, a lot of ears, a lot of people where brands could have intersection with people. 71% of the marketers actually told us they thought that there would be more opportunity to engage with fans in this host city because of those dynamics. Then we thought about the media market that is New York City. It is the media hub for so many. It's also trendsetters. We also have many influencers who call this home. This is a place where news and content is developed. All those things are intrinsic to New York. Those are absolutely the variables that we know. Then we have the X factor, and that's the weather, what we don't know. What the marketers told us, though, is that 70% believe that because of the weather, because of the X factor, the unknown about that there'll be heightened media interest in this particular event because the weather and the variable that it may be. And that interest is beyond sports media. So lifestyle, general consumer media, more opportunities for brands with exposure. We also learned that there are new opportunities for new brands to get in the game. 38% told us that they thought that seasonally relevant brands would have the opportunity to take advantage of this particular Super Bowl because of what it offers. Thinking about niche and category-specific brands, we're talking about the weather that's happening at that time. We're thinking about apparel, thinking about health and wellness brands, thinking about food and beverage brands that could be taking advantage of what is going to be a very interesting event and an interesting time of year. So understanding this is a standout opportunity, understanding this is a big crowded space that has the potential to be even more crowded, brands need to think differently about how they engage, how they activate. And by that, what we mean is it's not just developing content. It's not just a first screen experience anymore. Of course, we were not surprised to see it. Only 6% of marketers thought that using first screen only activating through utilizing television would be the way to engage with consumers. Instead, we have to think second screen, we have to think third screen, we have to think beyond that. And ultimately, what we learned was that nearly half believe that digital and social should be the primary channel to activate and engage with consumers. It's not just enough to develop content anymore. Text, images, video. You have to tell a story. It has to be engaging. It actually has to have meaning for consumers.
So as John pointed out, second screen obviously very vital. We know that, no surprise there. One of our clients is actually Tide. As I'm sure many of you know, P&G spends a lot of money in the NFL, and they want to see that ROI. Tide specifically, obviously not a performance brand. Their challenge to us was, how do we create more emotional connection, more affinity around our NFL sponsorship and our asset? How do we tie that together in a more impactful manner? For us, we saw a great opportunity to target those avid hardcore fans. And while the NFL draft is not the Super Bowl, and obviously there's going to be a lot more conversation around the Super Bowl, the biggest marketing event probably in the world, rivaled by World Cup, the draft is a place where there's a lot of conversation, and people who love their teams, they come and watch and they experience it, and they get very, very involved and passionate, and they're talking about it quite a bit, and they're waiting to see, is my team going to rebuild with the right draft picks, or are we going to build upon the success from last year? So we wanted to create content that was relevant and had the right context for these fans. For us, that was a big part of this, and that was something that John talked about in terms of that second screen. We know they're watching it on TV, but the first thing and the last thing they're doing is going to Twitter, going online to see, let me find out more about this guy, let me find out who's going to drop to us, let me find out if there's any potential trades happening and trade rumors. So for us, we wanted to build around equity around what Tide was. We're not a performance brand. We can't go onto Twitter around the draft, start talking about getting stains out of pants. I mean, if you're a Jaguars fan, I'm sorry if you are, you were hoping to see if Luke Jokel or Eric Fisher was going to drop to you. So we know that's what's first and foremost on your mind. So with Tide, we said, well, let's create content we know these guys care about, but ties to our equity, and that's colors. So we actually created digital images of every draft pick in the first round in their uniforms for the first time, and deliver it to each fan base on Twitter. So instead of targeting all the people talking about the draft or the NFL, we were very targeted in the local market, going after Atlanta Falcons fans, Jaguars fans, Chiefs fans. We knew they didn't want to hear about detergent, and we knew they didn't want to hear about performance from us, but they did want to see their players and their colors, to get excited about the fact that this guy's going to be in training camp on the field in 2 months representing our team. The reason this worked is we didn't deliver the message ourselves. I mean, think about it. If you're a fan of whatever team you are, say you're a Giants fan, do you really want to see Tide show up in your feed telling you about how awesome this is? You drafted this guy to protect Eli Manning? You probably don't. So we actually contracted all the draft picks that potentially go in the first round, had them whitelist their accounts, and promoted their tweet about them joining the team, their excitement for donning those new colors and pushing out that image to targeted fans in their market. Green Bay Packer fans don't care about who the Falcons are drafting. They care about who they're drafting. So a very targeted strategy that had context and was very relevant to the audience. Not trying to get to everyone with the same message, very specific, very focused, and very, very, very much tied to Tide. So if you take that message, applying it to the Super Bowl, we know, as John mentioned, there's going to be a lot of different variables, a lot of things to think about. Some things I'm sure most of you have already been thinking about, real-time marketing. You can't predict another Oreo-like experience. You can't predict for a big snowstorm and all of a sudden you're going to push out a great message. It doesn't happen all the time. There are certain things you can predict for. The draft, we knew certain guys were going to get drafted. We knew there was going to be a draft. We knew every team was going to have a pick at some point, so we wanted to create content around that in real time. So for us, it was that context that was important. Content is not king. Context is king. And that's the most important thing for your brand. You can't get to everyone. Super Bowl is a very big event. You got people from all over the world tuned in. You have local New Yorkers, if you are from New York, I am, that are going to be annoyed with it. Annoyed with all the hoopla, annoyed with the fact you can't get to work. It's going to be craziness. So maybe that's an opportunity for a brand. So that context is extremely important when you're thinking about the Super Bowl. Hyper-targeted and relevant. I think I mentioned that in the draft. That's obviously a very, very key point here. If you're just trying to go after avid hardcore fans, maybe you rule out all the rest of the casual fans, and you really go in with a very focused message that you know those avid hardcore fans care about because they're so in tune with their team and the sport. You can't have enough insights. I mean, I think that goes without saying. We dug deep and we knew exactly what certain players and certain fans were thinking about and what they're going to be talking about, and we used that to fuel our activation. Help solve a need for fans. That goes to my point about transportation. There's going to be a lot of potential issues and concerns from local residents and people coming into the city. I mean, New York is a unique market for those of you who live here, and you know, anytime there's a big event that comes to town, the city kind of turns into chaos a little bit. This is the biggest event coming to town. What's the opportunity? If you think about very, very tactically, cell phone reception. If your campaign is relying on consumers to text or tweet something, especially on the weekend of the game, good luck with that. I mean, we all know when a concert comes to town, you're in the MSG area, you can't get anything out. So having the right partner to create that experience for you. We work with a partner called Fizzle, who actually has deals with certain carriers to ensure that their text messages go out ahead of anyone else's in the stadium. So ensuring you have the right partners if you are reliant on any kind of cell phone reception around that weekend specifically. And then timing still matters. As I mentioned, real time, you can only plan for so many blackouts. But there are certain things we can plan for. You can deliver to your audience, whoever that is, if you have the right insights, you have the right content, and you have the right context around it, so you can be truly successful.
So I think in sum, obviously tremendous opportunity awaits for Super Bowl in 2014, but as we heard from the panel, the landscape is complex. In our survey, while there was a lot of positive sentiment about the opportunity, there was also recognition and uncertainty of some of the challenges. In fact, 63% of the marketers who took our survey said you should be partnering with a local agency, one that understands the landscape and the complexity of what New York City offers. So some things to think about is preparing for 2014 Super Bowl. Thank you.
Thank you.